Hi guys, this is Aaron Dade going over the ABC method again. This is C, where you're closing with an open-ended question. And the first was being approachable, which is A, and being able to, your spouse being able to come to you about any specific subject and you not being automatically offended or defensive or being approachable about anything. It does not mean you have to agree, or it doesn't mean that you automatically have to say yes is approachability. No, it just means that you can come and talk to me about anything. And then when you have boundaries, is how are we going to work within our relationship? There's several different types of boundaries. I tried to go over as many as I could in the other videos and things of that nature, but overall the general template is the A being approachable, B being boundaries, and this is C, where you close with an open-ended question. And closed-ended questions are just things that you want a yes or no answer to. Can I go to the bathroom? Can I do this, or what do you think about that? Yes or no answers to. Open-ended questions inspire thought and inspire different thought processes. And how do we figure this out together? It really inspires vulnerability. So when you're vulnerable with your spouse, it's two people that are able to have a vulnerable conversation, and then that turns into intimacy, where it's two people making a decision together. Instead of just two independent people in a relationship making independent decisions. And when you don't have that vulnerability, it makes it very, very difficult for you guys to grow as a actual couple. It's just, you guys are both making decisions, and then you can get comparison mindsets in that, performance mindsets in that. It can really, really cause very difficult trouble. And this is based on just open-ended questions. And just to relate this to the Bible, we're going to start with Job here and this was very interesting to me, because when I was first having conversations with God about this, and I was asking him about open-ended questions. I asked him about everything, but I was asking him about open-ended questions, and he was really revealing to me, you really should look at Job. And I know the story of Job very well. I understand, Job had a very, very blessed life. It was taken away from him. It was restored. I understand that process. When he was talking about open-ended questions, I was really kind of like scratching my head, And so when I went into the Bible and it was talking about his interaction with his three friends. And we want to go into Job, the chapter 3, when he first begins to lament and he starts to ask several different open-ended questions. And we're going to start at verse 11, which is, why did I not die at birth, come forth from the womb and expire? Why did the knees receive me, and why the breasts which I suck? For now I would have lain down and been quiet. I would have slept then, and I would have been at rest with kings and with counselors of earth. But now let's kind of skip down to verse 20, where it really kind of getting into asking several different open-ended questions. Who is the light given to him who suffers, and life to the bitter of soul, who long for death, but there is none, and dig for it more than for hidden treasures, who rejoice greatly and exult when they find the grave? Why is light given to a man whose way is hidden, and whom God has hedged in? So he's asking several different open-ended questions, and what we really want to address is how he's asking them. Open-ended questions a lot of times start with what, when, why, how. In that, I really like, how do you feel? How do you believe? Especially as a man speaking to a woman. You ask a woman, how do you feel? Get ready for a conversation. You ask a woman, what do you believe in? Get ready for a conversation. And so when I'm thinking about open-ended questions, I'm having conversations with, especially with my spouse, it really brings me back to a time beginning in my restoration where God was very, very clear with me. Sorry, this is funny now, but when it was happening to me, I assure you, it was not funny at all. But he was just like, you sobbed and begged and for your family back, your children and your wife. You felt betrayed and frustrated, and you wanted them back so bad. You coveted that back. You wanted that back. And the thing about it is, who are they? And to me, I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, I know who my kids are. I know who, I know what my kids like and what they dislike. I know who my wife is. I know all these things. And when you think about God's alignment, it's your relationship with him and then your relationship with your spouse. And I'm thinking, yeah, I know everything. Bringing us to what's happening here with Job and his friends. His friends had assumed Job had committed a terrible sin. And this, relating this to my situation, I had assumed my wife was the same person and my kids were the same person that I had known. I had really fallen in love with the idea of the person that they were at that time, instead of who they could be or what they could be or who they are actually in Christ, just loving them for who they are. I really was in love with the idea. That's another thing I'm going to go into in a second, but those assumptions were to my downfall and how he had me ask open-ended questions, because he said to me, I needed to be excited and intrigued by the new person in Christ that she was. And that did not go over well. I was kind of looking at this situation like, I don't want to sit in the same room as her, let alone, be intrigued about the new person she is. That's not how that's going to work. However, God was like, if you don't want to do this, then you cannot, but this is how this is going to work. You need to want to know who you're dealing with. And he explained to me that it's because when you start asking open-ended questions, they give you information by priority. So the answers to the questions you can really study. And that's how you learn any subject. You study it, there's questions and the answers, you study those constantly. And that's how you learn any subject. And so I had to learn my wife over again. I had to learn my kids over again. I had to be willing to learn them over again and be approachable about the idea of learning them. I didn't always have to agree with their style or method of doing things, but I had to be approachable about learning them and knowing them and understanding this was going to take patience. And, there's no way in the world that I've arrived, but this is going to take time. And to know in the restoration process, it would take time, because at the end of the day, my children and my wife, especially my wife, they are not projects. They are people. They don't have, projects have objectives and things. They have their own thoughts, feelings, and goals and aspirations, things that they find important in their lives. And these things are seasonal. The things that I found important to myself when I was 12, I could care less about now. Even the things that I found important to myself a couple of years ago are not as important anymore. This is just understanding that people are not projects. That's a whole nother video and conversation. That expands further and further into a lot of relationships begin and end with one person looking at them physically and emotionally and spiritually as a project and not as a human being. And they want to mold them into this. Like I was one of those people for sure. I looked at my wife physically, emotionally, and spiritually as, if she fits in this box, then that's the perfect wife, and she's got to do everything the perfect, and she's a human being, and God was really revealing to me in the beginning, you need to be excited about learning this new human being, and it's about the act of following my alignment, surrendering to my alignment. It's not about the result. because a lot of times the open-ended questions, you're going to get answers that you don't want to hear the answer to. You don't, first off, you're asking a question you really don't want to know. And then at the second point, the answer is something you definitely didn't want to know. A wonderful example of this, because I asked my wife when we first got restored. She got married to another man during our separation, and she got separated, and then we got remarried. And I asked my wife, and I had asked God about this question several times, and he was just like, you don't know her. You need to ask. You need to know. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, why do I have to ask her this? Like, I don't need to ask her anything. I don't want to know. I know what she's going to say. And so I asked her, how could you love the other man that you married? Like, and I thought she was going to give me the corporate answer, I never loved him. I this and that and this and that. And I thought I was pretty much sure the corporate answer was coming that I already knew. And what she ended up saying is because I could never get it from you. And that let me know I had no idea who she was. I really didn't know. I had this idea that, like, another open-ended question I ended up having to ask her was, what her priorities are, because I thought that when we went out, like, she liked the appearance of things looking a certain way and feeling. My wife likes to take pictures. I thought, she just liked the appearance of things looking a certain way. No, she just wanted somebody that she could experience life with, a life partner that she could talk to. And I was starving her of emotional availability because I didn't want to talk to her. I didn't want to talk about any of the rest of those things. And so, since I asked the open-ended question, it landed pretty much right in my lap, the answers that I was looking for. So that's why you're asking open-ended questions. And and to be honest, like, there were several different instances that I can think of even now that God was revealing to me that I thought that I knew my wife, and I did not know her at all. Like, the other day, he revealed to me my wife does not like chives at all. And I thought I could have sworn that she liked chives, and she does not. So, guys, be excited about the new person in Christ that your spouse is, and that in learning who they are and studying them. And yes, I will go over the 4 steps listening, because that's very, very important. Also, boundaries. I think we need to elaborate on that a little more. My wife and I are also going to do another Q&A session. And so if you could, in the comments, it would really help us if you could just kind of uniform some ideas that you would like to hear from us in a Q&A session, so we can schedule it and actually be addressing things that you want to hear from us. And it will be both of us, so you guys can see the both of us in restoration. But again, like, just be excited about the new person in Christ that you will be getting to know in your restoration. This is Aaron Dade, and this is the C closed with that open-ended question. It's very important. Bye now.